It's official. The Malawi government has gazetted a new set of rules. You can import electric vehicles, electric vehicle charging systems. So that also includes DC fast chargers systems. They can be imported duty free. So that's the news. That's what has happened. So there's a question. Is this good news or bad news? For Malawi in particular, in Africa in general. And that's what we want to discuss. Let me begin by mentioning that this decision by the Malawi government is very polarizing. So it has created two camps. There is one camp, which is the skeptics. They are very skeptical about the importance or the relevance of this policy to the development of the country. And there is another group, which is the supporters. They are very happy, over the moon with what has happened. So we are going to look at both sides and we are going to check their points and try to aggregate them together and draw a conclusion. So, the skeptics, they are saying there are no expertise in the country. So what happens if one buys the electric vehicle, as the government is trying to promote with this new set of rules? The vehicle comes in the country, it breaks down. Who's going to fix it? Where are you going to find the expertise? Are you going to call for expertise from outside the country to come and fix your car? Won't that become too expensive in the long term? Or to fix even your motorbike, depending on the EV? That's the question that the skeptics are advancing forward. Number two, intermittent power supply. So for those who may not be familiar, your typical African country has this problem. This problem is very common in the African continent. So a typical country in, for example, 24 hours, you will have maybe 12 hours power is supplied, the other 12 hours, there's no power. So this rationing of power is called load shedding. And so this load shedding problem is all across Africa. Now, of course, I have given a random example. 12 hours in 24 hours, that's not very representative. It depends on which country you're talking about. So in one country it could be more, the other country it could be less. It's not like most people try to paint Africa as this one nation or one country and then, the data. It's convenient for data reporting, but rarely is it representative of what happens in Africa. It's very different from one country to the other country. But the fact remains that this problem is prevalent across the continent. So the skeptics are saying, during load shedding, how am I going to charge my car? So it means I will not be able to charge my car because power is supplied to me intermittently. So I will have a scenario where I want to drive the car maybe the following morning and we don't have power and I don't have my mobility to be able to get to work or to my business place or wherever I want to go. So this is another issue that is being advanced by the skeptics. Then number three is the issue of accessibility. The question here is, what is the fraction of the population that has access and is connected to the national grid? So I checked up the data, it's around 10%. And so the issue with this is that here's a very seemingly nice policy to benefit the nation. But from the start, it has automatically excluded a bigger fraction of the population. So only 10% are benefiting, 90% are automatically excluded. And 90% is a lot because the actual population of the nation is around 21 million people. So this in itself has angered the skeptics. Then number four, the skeptics are saying, we do not even believe that this policy was motivated by good intentions. So there's an issue of motives. The skeptics are thinking that, okay, the government is creating this policy just to reward its cronies or the people that are rich and connected to the government so they can be given an opportunity to be able to import the cars and use them for personal use or sometimes to even create businesses, put some charging infrastructure across the country so they are being given an unfair advantage at this time. They can be able to roll out their businesses and then later the policy will be reversed again, making it hard for other people to come and join them. So here's an issue of motive. It's very difficult to prove, but it's being advanced and it should be taken into consideration when the discussion is on the table. What about those who are supporting this policy? What are they saying? First point, very obvious one. The cost of ownership of electric vehicles will significantly go down, because if you import a vehicle in most African countries, the import duties are very, very high. So when those have been taken out, like it is the case here in the country Malawi, it means that the cost of ownership of that vehicle will significantly go down, and therefore it will accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles so that most people can afford to be able to have an electric vehicle. And of course, this will have a huge effect on the public health, as we know that diesel particulate matter or petrol particulate matter that is emitted by internal combustion engines has attendant health problems on the society. In most countries, there is data where so many people die annually from this emission. In addition to that, charging infrastructure. So with this policy, it means businesses, individuals can import charging equipment and accessories duty-free. So of course the cost of those materials go down, and if they do, it means, example, if you have two cities, 400 kilometers in between, there's been an issue for people who want to buy an electric car. They can't drive between those cities. So for example, they buy a car that is only 300 kilometers. How are they going to get to city B from city A? They need charging infrastructure in between. So for example, DC fast chargers. And when these have gone down in price, it means businesses can begin to install those services along the routes. And therefore, the issue of range anxiety goes away from those people who initially would have bought an electric vehicle, but they didn't do it because of range anxiety. At this moment, that range anxiety completely evaporates. My take on this is that both sides have valid points that need to be considered. So both sides of the debate have points. So for example, if you think about the skeptics, the issue of motives, I think that has to be debated on, thought through, and we should come to a conclusion that makes sense. I think countries should not devise policies that are just affecting the few rich, elites, and connected. I think it should be policies that are enacted to benefit everyone in that particular society. But maybe not everyone, but a bigger fraction of the population should be able to benefit from the policies that are being enacted. But that being said, in general, I think that the supporters of this policy are on the right side of history. Why do I think so? Firstly, it's because I'm looking at the bigger picture. It doesn't really matter that a few people might benefit from this policy because they are connected to the people that are in government, the people that are powerful. That could be true. It might not even be true, but that could be true. Now, even if that is true, it doesn't matter. Think about charging stations. If these charging stations have been rolled out in that country, so between cities, between townships, we have those charging stations. Who is going to benefit? It's pretty much everyone in that country. Everyone that has been able to afford and buy an electric vehicle is going to benefit from that infrastructure, irrespective of the fact that they may not have been connected to the ruling elites. In addition, if you just study the economy of Malawi, you find that it is an agrarian country to start with. So it depends on agriculture. But it exports very little of that. So most even of the agricultural products are consumed internally. So it doesn't have a real export product that can generate foreign currency. But it imports a lot of products from outside the country. That puts a lot of pressure on its foreign reserves. And you can read in IMF reports, World Bank reports, you see that this country is usually in a crisis of foreign currency. In terms of dollar amounts, the largest import for that country is actually motor vehicle fuel. So a huge portion of its foreign reserves is actually spent on importing motor vehicle fuel. And from where I stand, it is a no-brainer for this country to transition away from importing a lot of motor vehicle fuel. Why is that? Because it's going to protect its foreign reserves. and therefore alleviate the pressure that this country continually has from year to year. And for all African governments that do not have a real petroleum industry, they should follow the lead of Malawi. They should transition away from importing motor vehicle fuel. It just drains foreign currency and it makes it very hard for the nations to survive. I think it is a no-brainer. I think they should encourage the adoption of electric vehicle. They should encourage the adoption of clean energy, because from a public health perspective, it is a tick. Even from the foreign currency perspective, it is a tick. So for me, the way I see it, I think most countries in Africa should follow the lead of this country. These are my thoughts. These are my opinions. I want to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching.